China's cyber watchdog is tightening the leash on app stores, but a new list published overnight says that Apple has yet to comply. Eunice Yoon joins us right now with more. Eunice, what does this mean?
Well, Becky, people here are trying to still figure it all out, but the cyber regulator, as you said, had just named 26 companies that it said is part of a first batch of companies that have indeed filed business details to comply with the regulations. As you pointed out, Apple is not on the list so far. However, there are some very familiar Chinese names on the list, say Huawei, for example, as well as Baidu, Tencent, and Alibaba's Ant Group. Now, the purpose of all this is for Beijing to tighten its oversight of app stores. It had come out with some regulations earlier this summer and said that companies would have to register with the government, adhere to Chinese socialist values, and there would be special attention paid to news, education, publications, film, TV, and religion. Now, Apple hasn't responded to CNBC's request for comment. However, the impact is expected to be pretty big. At least that's what analysts are concerned about, the potential there for the business impact more broadly, not only for Apple, but for other foreign companies as well as private companies, because in effect, it would force global apps to establish a Chinese entity or work with a local partner. Also, it could potentially restrict the number of apps. There have been a lot of foreign-branded companies and developers who have enjoyed being able to be accessible in China through Apple's App Store, but they haven't had to actually provide any documentation to the government here. There's an expectation that this is going to hit small developers, and that's also going to potentially affect the availability of some of the banned apps, such as X or Facebook or Instagram, which are actually listed as available through the App Store of Apple, but you just can't access them as a Chinese citizen. So if you go overseas, for example, and you travel, then you could potentially access them that way. Now it looks like those apps will also be taken off the list. So a lot of scrutiny still, Becky, even though the tech regulatory environment, at least people think it's eased off a little bit.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it sounds like this is enforcement of things that were kind of already out there. It's just much more heightened scrutiny, much more enforcement than we've seen to this point.
Yeah, I mean, the whole overall environment is such that people kind of understand the lay of the land here, so they feel as though they need to comply when it comes to, say, the threat of having what's been described as illegal content. Nobody really knows what would be considered illegal, so there's a lot of decision-making behind the scenes at companies just to not put anything out there that could potentially be risky. Yeah, I think what we're seeing here is a more systemic way to be able to make sure that Beijing approves of all of this content.